Hey, it's Mr. E here, and our learning target is I can solve problems that involve isosceles triangles. All right, so let's get to it. An isosceles triangle is a triangle with two congruent sides and two congruent angles. So for those of you that are not familiar with the word congruent implies equal. All right, so let me give you an example of an isosceles triangle. All right, this is an isosceles triangle because we are given that the side AB, so this is talking about a side, and this is also talking about a side. So what it's saying is these two sides, side AB and side AC, are equal to each other. And how do I know it's talking about a side? I know it's talking about a side because it uses two letters. And if it uses two letters, it's talking about a side or a line segment. All right, so just going back to this, right? So it says side AB is equal to side AC. In a diagram, we can indicate congruency with hash marks. So if I want to show that this whole side AB is equal to side AC, I can indicate that with hash marks. So I'll put a hash mark on AB, and I'll put the same hash mark on AC. These hash marks tell you that the side AB is equal to the side AC. All right, now, since the two sides are equal, we know that two angles must be equal. The congruent angles are opposite the congruent sides. So this is important. The congruent angles are opposite the congruent sides. So here is a congruent side. The congruent angle is opposite to it. So this is a congruent angle, angle B. And this is a congruent side, and opposite from it is angle C, so this is also a congruent angle. So the two congruent angles are angles B and C. And I can also use the hash marks to indicate that. So these marks indicate that angles B and C are equal to each other, or congruent to each other. So I could say angle B is congruent to angle C. All right, let's look at an example. Example 1 says, in triangle PQR, RP is congruent to QR. So I know that this is talking about a side. This is talking about a side. And the measure of angle Q is equal to 71 degrees, and obviously this is talking about an angle because it says 71 degrees. And that's a giveaway that it's talking about an angle. And you also see the angle sign here, right? Find the measure of angle R. So I'm going to begin by drawing an isosceles triangle, and I'm going to label it with the given information. I know it's isosceles because it's telling me the two sides are equal. So I know it's isosceles. So I'm going to draw an isosceles triangle, and I'm going to label it PQR, PQR. And what it's saying is, it's saying the side RP is congruent to the side QR. So I'm going to label that using my hash marks. So the side RP, so this side here, is congruent to QR. So these two sides are congruent. Now, since these sides are congruent, I know that the angles opposite those sides are also congruent. So I know that angle Q is congruent to angle P. So I could erase that now. Right? I know that the angles opposite the congruent sides are equal, so I know that angle Q is congruent to angle P, right? Because if you go back to the first slide, it says right over here, the congruent angles are opposite, so they're opposite from the congruent sides. So that's why here the congruent angles are opposite from the congruent sides. Okay, now it says angle Q is 71 degrees. It says so right over here. So I could write 71 degrees for angle Q. I should probably write that a little better, right? Looks a little sloppy. 71 degrees. Now, I know that angle P is congruent to angle Q, so angle P is also 71 degrees. So these two angles are both 71 degrees. So now I got to find the measurement of angle R. Well, what do I know? Well, I know that in a triangle, the three angles have to add up to 180. I know that angle P plus angle Q plus angle R must add up to 180 degrees. So angle P is 71, angle Q is 71, and plus the missing angle R equals 180. 71 plus 71 is 142, plus angle R equals 180. Let's subtract 142 from both sides. This will cancel out. And angle R is equal to 180 minus 142, which is 38 degrees. So this is 38 degrees. So the answer is 38. All right, so here it is, example 2. It says in triangle WXY, angle Y is congruent to angle X. So obviously it's talking about an angle. That's why you see the angle sign in front of the Y and in front of the X. And let's keep going. It says XY is equal to 16, and that's talking about a side. So this is talking about the side XY. And WX is equal to 12, and then this is also talking about a side. Find the length of YW. So you want to begin by drawing an isosceles triangle. So here's something that passes as an isosceles triangle. And let's go ahead and label it. So we got W, X, and Y. And it says here angle Y is congruent to angle X. So I'm going to say angle Y, and I'm going to put a tick mark, a hash mark on it, is congruent to angle X. So this indicates that these two angles are congruent. So angle X is congruent to angle Y. All right, so now, since I know that these two angles are congruent, I also know that the sides opposite those angles are congruent. So the side opposite this angle is WX, and the side opposite this angle is WY. So I know that side WX is congruent to side WY. So this side is congruent to this side. And what it says is that side XY is 16, so this is 16. And it says WX is 12, so WX is 12. Find YW. Well, that's easy, right? YW is congruent to WX because those sides are congruent since they are opposite the congruent angles. So that means WY is also 12. Or YW is also 12. That's the final answer. Alright, so here are some guidelines for solving problems that involve isosceles triangles. You want to begin by drawing a picture, label the given information with hash marks, the way that I just did it. Label the implied information. So if given two equal sides, then the angles opposite those sides are also equal, just like we did in our second example here. If these two angles are equal, then we know that these two sides are equal. Sorry about that. Do not confuse sides with angles or angles with sides. Angles are measured in degrees and sides are not. So you don't want to confuse that. Whenever you label a side, you want to put the measurement outside the triangle, the way I just did it. And when you label an angle, or you want to write the measurement of an angle, that goes inside the triangle. Alright, I hope this video helps. Take care.